Hey everyone. So it is the end of my day. It is 8 o'clock here. And I was in my car reflecting on something. And that's how a lot of times in my videos, I talk to you guys a lot about my moves, like how many times I have moved. But I haven't really gone into detail about them. And just something is pressing on my spirit that somebody needs to hear details in order for them to be open-hearted, open-minded, open-eared to what maybe God is saying. And so here it goes, a little backup story. Born and raised in New York, that is where I went to college. And towards the end of my college years, I moved to Spain during a summer semester. And that was my first experience out of the country. I think I lived there for like 3 months or so, and I learned so much about myself during that time of living over there. I was living with a host family with a couple other students, and we had a maid, and it was just wonderful. It was a wonderful experience for me to go to school over there and meet new friends, meet, just the culture in general. And then after college, I ended up getting married in 2005, and right after I got married, my ex-husband and I moved down to Florida. And so the reason why we went there and picked up and moved without any problem is because that's where he was going to go to school, or that's where he went to school. And my goal as a wife at that time was to support his goals and dreams. And I prayed about it, and God said go. So we went. We lived in Florida for 5 years. Things happened. And in order for us to get divorced, we had to move back to New York because Florida did not recognize the divorce or the New York marriage. So he moved back up there first. I finished out the school year. And so my original reason for moving back to New York was not by choice. It was because I had to. And that was one of my very first struggles in life, was leaving my church family, leaving friends. I mean, I had solid friends by that time. What else? My career, like the school that I was working in, I had already been there for 5 years, and I really loved that school. But I ended up taking I don't even know what you call it, but I'll just call it a leave of absence. And that was to get my mind together, my heart together. I could not focus at that time. And so I did that. And during that time, I moved back up to New York. So in order to recover from the marriage, in order to pay off my debt, I stayed there for 4 years. When I say stayed there, meaning I lived in New York, New Jersey, in that area for 4 years. That way I could finalize our divorce, finish paying off my debt with a really good teaching income. And then I prayed again. And I was like, God, I need you to just tell me what to do. Where do I go now? Do I stay here? Do I leave? And I was feeling anxious. I was feeling stressed. I was feeling all the things that are not of God. And so I had gone back down to Florida to visit because by that time my mom lived down there. I wanted to see my friends. And so I went back down there, and I'm like, oh, this feels like home. It really felt so good to be back. And so I just decided to pray about it again. God said, yes, go ahead and go. I moved to Florida, had the most incredible year teaching I had ever had. It was my 12th year teaching. I absolutely loved it. Everything was right. The administrators were amazing. Kids were amazing. I've always had amazing kids, but when you have great administrators and great kids and great parents, it was just the best. And so, again, I was feeling in my spirit something was off. And God said that it was time. It was time for me to move forward in the next part of my journey. And so it was the hardest decision I have ever had to do because it was my favorite year teaching. I was even coaching basketball at that time. Like, everything was just amazing. But I realized if I was going to retire from teaching, it needed to be on my most amazing year. And so God put it in my spirit. I started preparing for that next phase of my journey. And then it was like, okay, but where? Like, where do I work? Where do I go after I retire? And God reminded me that there was a time that I wanted to live in California. It was like a dream place. And so I literally packed up my car again, sold everything I had, and I drove out to California. And I lived out there with a very dear friend of mine, like my bestie, my boo, like just super amazing friend of mine. It was me, him, and I don't know, 3 or 4 other guys in the house. And I had a blast. I had so many great memories there, met great people. And so during that 6 months, I met somebody that was from here in Oklahoma. And this is a really important message to you. Sometimes God will use something or someone to get you somewhere else because he knows otherwise you would not go. And so I met this someone from Oklahoma. I came out to visit them. And when I was here, I felt something that was way different. And everything was way less expensive here than California. Gas at the time was almost $4 cheaper. I mean, it was wild at the difference in cost of living here. The apartments here were, like, I was paying literally the same amount in California for a bedroom as I was going to be able to pay here in Oklahoma for an apartment all by myself with a balcony. It was just a no-brainer, having retired from teaching. And so after I visited that person, I went back to California and I prayed again. And I said, okay, God, like, help me out here. Is this where you're calling me to? Is that why I'm feeling this way? And it was just a sense of peace I have never felt before. And so I prayed, and what I heard was, why not? I wasn't married. There was nothing tying me down to California or anywhere. And so I called Oklahoma to the gym that I wanted to transfer to. They had an open position, and I literally packed up my car and I left. And there were people that, yeah, they probably felt I should have told them I was leaving, but I didn't. I just packed up my car and I left. I didn't tell anyone but my housemates. And I drove all night, all day. And when I got to Oklahoma, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I crossed the border. And the moment I crossed the border, I heard, plant your roots here. And it blew my mind. I've never heard that as clear as day as I did in that moment in the car by myself, just me and my stuff. And so for the last 7 years, that's what I've done. And that person that I met from here, I literally broke up with in like 4 months of being here because he was just the tool that God needed to get me to Oklahoma, because this city girl would have never come to the country here in Oklahoma. Never, ever, ever. But God needed a tool. He needed to use something or someone to get me to a place where God needed me to be for a time such as this. And I am so grateful that I listened to his voice, to my spirit. I'm grateful for the peace that overwhelmed my entire being the moment that I crossed into the border of Oklahoma. It was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. And the last 7 years of being here have been abundantly blessed. Abundantly blessed. I can't even explain the amount of blessings that have happened since I moved here. And so do I wish I could move everybody here that I care about? Yeah, that would be awesome. But it's just not reality. So I pray that this encourages someone. If you're struggling, if you're on the fence about whether you should stay or go, the biggest thing that I know, having moved all of those times for all of those different reasons, is that God will never leave you. He will never leave you alone. God is always there. Always there. You just might not see him because you have disconnected. He hasn't. He's right there. You disconnected. So get in alignment, get and become one again. And if you've never done it, do it now. and go where God is calling you to go. Love you guys. Bye.